Welcome, everyone, to the Week 6 series of Just Saying Football with Jack and Sean. I'm your host, Sean Gannon, alongside my partner, Jack McNicholas. We're here to bring you news, notes, weekly updates, and game analysis of your favorite teams from around the league. If you had not had the chance, go check out our website at justsayingfootball.com and follow us on Instagram, JustSaying, for article and video updates. Before we get into Sunday's kickoff games at 1 o'clock, a little bit of news. The Vikings-Falcons game is still going to be on for 1 o'clock, although the Falcons had some positive COVID tests this week, and the Patriots-Broncos test is also back on, even though they've had a few COVID positive tests over the past couple weeks. Everything seems to be good to go. With that being said, let's move on into Tennessee, where the Texans are facing the Tennessee Titans. Jack, what you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, Chauncey, this week after the Titans got to blow up the Bills last week on the first Tuesday Night Football of our memory, they were able to go 4-0. The Texans finally got their first win last week with Romeo Crennel at the helm, Bill O'Brien gone. I'm looking this week straightforward at the Texans and Derrick Henry in this run game. He has been absolutely dominant. He's one of the people that I say, is probably the only offense that you can hand a guy the ball 20 times every game and get good results. With him, he's had 101 rushing yards. That's over 25 carries a game in those first 4 games. And then on top of that, the guy is out here just getting touchdowns. He had huge touchdowns last week. I'm looking for a big dominant performance from Tennessee.
Absolutely. I mean, the Tennessee Titans just did whatever they wanted offensively in the second half against the Bills. It was actually unusual. I was surprised to see that was the final scoreline, a 42-16 win. I just didn't see that come in. The play action pass was beautiful. Ryan Tannehill was running the ball really, really, really well. He picked a few little openings. The Texans are a pretty easy team right now. They're not going to give the Titans much run for their money defensively, offensively, although Deshaun Watson looks good and Brandon Cooks really came on last week. I still expect that Titans defense to be able to shut them down. I am going to go with the Titans at home again against a divisional matchup. I just think that they're playing really, really well right now. Henry's running the ball well. The play action's working well. Everything for them is kind of going in their direction. They beat a top-tier team in the Bills. They're not going to slip up against the Texans that are 1-4. Going to go with the Titans.
Yeah, I mean, the Titans seem very, very safe this week, and the safest pick of all of the league. We're both going with the Titans here, but one team you can always count on this year is the Ravens. Before the season, they were favored in all 16 games this year going into it. And I think they're favored this week as well going against the Eagles.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, the Eagles played really, really well against a tough Pittsburgh defense last week. And similar to last week, this week, they're going to have no Deshaun Jackson, no Alshon Jeffrey, no Lane Johnson, just on their offense alone. There's still no Jason Peters. He is on the IR. This team is really open for defenses to go and punish them. I think that they may put up a good fight for quite some time, but this Ravens defense is playing at a great level. The Ravens offense looks good. It's just going to be too much for the Eagles to handle. I cannot say enough about what the Eagles have done last week, regardless of all the injuries, but it still was enough to get the win, and that's really what matters at the end of the day. It's tough to see them putting up an intense fight against the Ravens for all 4 quarters.
Yeah, I love how the Ravens are playing. They're very creative this year. Their passing game is actually one of the weaker points, but the amount of rushing weapons they have and Lamar Jackson is so dangerous. Last week we got to see the Eagles have a little bit of a shift, as you mentioned. They have injury on injury. Travis Fulgham, some guy who came out of nowhere, signed on October 3rd. He had 13 targets last week, 10 catches, 152 yards. Touchdown against the Steelers defense that's not really letting people score. Great story you have to mention, but I'm going with the Ravens in this one. I don't like betting against Lamar Jackson and
that, especially that Ravens secondary. I mean, when you know Alshon, know Deshaun Jackson, it's a lot easier for you as a cornerback to cover some of these lesser known guys.
Yeah, and with Marlon Humphrey there, and we have Marcus Peters on the other
Jimmy
side.
Smith.
You can really put anybody on these guys, and their top option is the guy they signed a couple of weeks ago. So I'm looking for the Ravens, pretty straightforward. One game that's not going to be pretty straightforward. The Ravens keeping it in the AFC North. Steelers 4-0. After a COVID test pushed their season up a little bit. And the Browns 4-1 going to Pittsburgh. What are you thinking about this one? Who's going to be more intimidating? These offenses both have so many weapons. Which offense are you more scared of going into this?
That's a really tough question. Chase Claypool came on the scene last week to score 4
Yeah.
touchdowns for the Steelers out of nowhere, showed that he could possibly be the wide
Whew.
receiver 2 and possibly a running back 2 if they ever need him to
Or
be.
a tight end too. This
Um,
guy play
yep.
everywhere.
He was doing whatever he could to find the end zone. It was really impressive. I like what they
Yeah.
had to do. But then I think back to the Browns and Cowboys game and what Kevin Stefanski did. He just constantly threw a bunch of these double reverses for pass, double reverses for runs, a bunch of different things. This is tough for me, and I feel like what you need to highlight really is Myles Garrett, who's looking right now like the defensive player of the year possibly,
Yeah.
against TJ Watt. These are two really, really good edge rushers that are going to be attacking the quarterbacks. I don't know who's going to get this one off the top of my head. I think it's going to be a really, really tough fight. I'm going to lean Steelers for right now.
Mhm.
I like what that defense just been able to do over the last couple of years with Big Ben back. That offense looked a lot of fun last week. I expect even more from Juju and Claypool coming in this week. So I'm going to go with the Steelers as more of a safe choice compared to the Browns, which sometimes is a little bit hit and miss. We also see Odell Beckham Jr. is sick, not COVID related though, just an illness. A few other injuries across the board for them. Baker Mayfield popped up. Jarvis Landry has also popped up as questionable. Expecting them all to play, but questionable up against such an intense defense and such a tough game is not what you want to see the Saturday before a big game.
Definitely. I mean, I have to go with the Steelers in this one just because Baker is dealing with a slight rib injury. Odell wasn't at practice this week. There are less intimidating people just due to the circumstances this week, but I will go with the Steelers as well on this one. Their defense is playing absolutely out of their mind this season.
Yeah, who's going to get more sacks, though? TJ Watt, Myles Garrett?
Myles Garrett I have been picking, but I'm going to go with TJ Watt. I think that offensive line for the Browns could collapse with Bud Dupree coming in one way, Cam Hayward coming up the middle, and TJ getting opportunities on the outside. I'm going with TJ Watt.
I'm going to give Myles Garrett the benefit of the doubt. I 2.5 for Myles Garrett this weekend.
I called 2 a couple of weeks ago, and I got it. So 2.5 is safe for my guy. He $25 million man. I mean, we're going to have to keep it again in the AFC North, though, going into this next one with the Bengals. We have been big fans of Joe Burrow this season. The Colts had a positive test on Friday morning, but the game is expected to continue.
Yep.
Joe Burrow, as we were mentioning, he's going to have another tough week after a tough week against, last week he was sacked 7 times against this Ravens defense. These guys, this offensive line needs to protect him. He didn't get to throw a touchdown last week. He didn't eclipse 200 yards. This Colts defense has been top 3 in almost every category. What is Joe Burrow going to have to do against these guys to beat them?
For starters, AJ Green is going to need to be more of a presence. We saw how frustrated he was on the sideline. It looked like he said, trade me then. We're not 100% sure. He did say it was taken out of context. So I expect a big week from AJ Green. He's going to be a little upset about last week. He's going up against a very, very tough Colts defense, like you mentioned. AJ Green needs to get the ball going. He is a star wide receiver. They signed him to the franchise tag this year. He's come back from injury, I know, but he kind of needs to be the guy for Burrow. With all that being said, I don't think that the Bengals have enough to beat the Colts. Between the run game that the Colts have with Jonathan Taylor and just that offensive line, and then the defense to go along with that, it's going to be really, really hard to beat them. The Colts can also just drain the clock. This could easily be a 13-3 kind of game where it's just super low scoring. Colts just retain possession the entire game and just play smart football instead of trying to risk anything. And then the defense on the other side, DeForest Bunker, Xavier Rhodes, are playing really, really well this season.
Yeah, I'm excited. I think I'm going to go with the Colts. They have just been playing very smart football. Phillip Rivers hasn't been playing that well, but they've been able to just run it, but ground and pound and defense. That's how the Jets went to conference championships back in, the early part of the decade. And that it shows that teams with good defense and good young running back committees can get through it. And they have Phillip Rivers, who's not playing well, as I mentioned, but I'm going with the Colts this week.
Yep. I think that defense and the run game alone can just do enough for what they need. Although I expect Joe Burrow to have a bounce back game after a tough game last week against the Ravens. He got a taste of what those divisional matchups in the AFC North are going to be like, and they're hard. Yeah,
and he has a long road ahead. He's still got to play the Steelers twice, and he still has to play the Ravens again. The next matchup here, we have teams that desperately need a win. The Jaguars hosting the Lions. The Jaguars 1-4, the Lions 1-3 coming off the bye. Really to stay competitive in their divisions where we see, teams like, the Steelers, Browns, and Ravens in the AFC, going, to take it. And then we have the Bears and the Packers really fighting for the NFC North right now, with the Vikings coming in hot at the end. But the fact is, how do the Lions go into this game and prove that on paper on paper they look like a great team, and on the field they haven't been winning these games?
I think right now I think I want to see Stafford open up the ball a little bit more. I really want to see the big arm that he has and unleash his cannon. He has some good weapons in Marvin Jones Jr. and Kenny Galladay. They're both really, really solid wide receivers. Adrian Peterson has a chance against a relatively weak Jacksonville Jaguars defense to give them a solid run game. So does DeAndre Swift and Kerryon Johnson. They can use this running back by committee a little bit more against a relatively easy Jacksonville defense. But again, I really want to see Stafford throwing the ball more. He has these weapons. He has Hawkinson, who's a promising tight end. Let's use these weapons. Let's start to throw the ball down the field. Let's really open it up against the Jaguars. Let's get ourselves a win. They're sitting at 1-3. Vikings are 1-4. You don't want to give the Vikings a chance to just creep up on you and take that third slot. It's going to be tough in that NFC North division for both the Vikings and the Lions to really move up. So every win counts, and a win against an easy team like the Jaguars all of a sudden becomes a must win when you're thinking about the playoff picture in the future.
Yeah, I'm looking at the Lions this week to involve Adrian Peterson, DeAndre Swift, get a run game going. For so long, this team was known as the team that couldn't run or didn't have supportive running backs with Matthew Stafford, but he actually has an opportunity now. In 4 games, he's been averaging over 2 touchdowns. So I really want to see him be able to spread it out, like you said. I'm looking for the Lions to win this one. I think they have a good enough team. I'm looking for a big thing from Trey Flowers on the defensive end to just take advantage of this Jacksonville offensive line, and get after Minshew.
Yeah, this is tough for me. I want to say Lions because of the weapons. I'm going to go and be opposite of you. I'm going to go with the Jaguars. There's no Desmond Trufant, which could just bear well for the Jaguars and a few passing opportunities for them. I like what James Robinson has done out of the backfield. The rookie looks great for them, just running the ball so effectively when people thought no Leonard Fournette, no run game for the Jaguars. They've slowly showed us that everyone was wrong about that. I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and be opposition to you and go Jaguars.
All right, yeah, that's great. It's great we impose. This one's going to be an interesting opposition for you. You got your least favorite team, the Chicago Bears, going up against your best friend, Teddy Bridgewater, who's won 3 straight. How are you feeling about Teddy hosting these Bears?
First of all, so happy for Teddy Bridgewater and everything he's been able to accomplish since the injury with the Minnesota Vikings. Cannot say enough about him. I'm going to go with the Panthers. I'm going to say it proud. I think that the Bears offense looks a little weird. We saw them pull a comeback win last week against the Buccaneers because of that defense. And although that defense is great, Teddy Bridgewater played them last year with the Saints and actually got the win against them. Yeah. So I'm going to give Bridgewater the benefit of the doubt and say he can do it again this year to beat the Bears, though it is going to be a tough matchup because that Bears defense is really, really solid. But Teddy's been passing the ball well to DJ Moore, to Robbie Anderson. The run game looks solid with no Christian McCaffrey whatsoever, which a lot of people, including ourselves, I think were a little bit 50-50 on, but it still looked the same. They've been able to pretty much replicate exactly the same production from Christian McCaffrey somehow with Davis. So I'm gonna go with the Panthers here. Yeah.
Look at all that you just laid out there. They have these offensive weapons, and even without McCaffrey, Mike Davis has looked solid, from the passing game. And these are usually targets in the passing game that would go to Christian McCaffrey, and Mike Davis is really making the best out of it. For me, the Bears defense is the key factor every time I determine a game for them. They're the 4th best right now in allowing points. And when that happens with a team like Carolina that's beating people by scoring, it's going to be a tough matchup for them. And I don't see this Carolina offensive line being able to outmatch the pass rush of Chicago. Akeem Hicks and Khalil both have 7 sacks combined in the first 5 weeks. Very impressive. They've been able to just get a lot of pressures on quarterbacks. I think Teddy's going to have his hands full this week. I'm going with the Bears.
I like it. I think Teddy's can still overcome.
Yeah,
I believe in the 2-glove wonder that is Teddy Bridgewater.
We always have to believe. You can never bet against them.
But moving on, my favorite team, the Minnesota Vikings, are at home taking on the Atlanta Falcons. What are your thoughts on that one, Jack? We got no Dalvin Cook this week thanks to a groin injury.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm looking at my guy, Alexander Madison. People have been putting their fantasy budgets and seasons on the line to pick this guy up this week for must win. And I love it. I love the offense that they have presented in Minnesota for you guys. The Falcons are like Christmas coming early on your schedule. When the Vikings need a win right now, thank God they're playing this defense because the Falcons are banged up. And even the guys not banged up, they're letting people pass all over them. I'm looking for a big day from Kirk on the play action. They're going to run Madison early and really be able to expose this deep threat from him. I'm actually very excited to see the Vikings, after having a couple of tough matchups in the first couple of weeks, just really getting against hard running teams. This Atlanta team is going to be spreading the ball out. The Vikings are going to hope that they make some mistakes and try to get this win.
Yeah, if you're the Vikings right now, you want to try to replicate what you did in the first half against the Seahawks. Calvin Ridley and Julio Jones are both going to be in. This offense has the weapons to pass on the Vikings defense. So they're going to need to create a similar game plan where they're going to try to shut down the top two wide receivers. They struggled to do that with DK Metcalf in the second half. So you're going to need to hold down Julio Jones, who's one of the, if not the best there is in the business. I'm going to give the Falcons the benefit of the doubt to beat the Vikings, although I like what the Vikings can do against a Falcons defense. They just fired Dan Quinn. They just fired their GM, Thomas Dimitroff. I think that similar to what happened with the Texans last week, when you lose your coach, you rally back and you get a win.
Yeah,
that's just what
absolutely.
you do.
Yeah.
And I think right now, if you're the Vikings and you're a Vikings fan, you're probably really excited about this matchup before the bye to possibly get a win and go to 2-4. But I don't think that the Falcons are going to necessarily just give up on the season. They're going to continue to fight till the end. And with Julio Jones and Calvin Ridley, you could really pass on this Vikings defense that has been giving up a lot of passing yards. So I'm going to go with the Falcons this week as a surprise team to upset.
I am going to take your Vikings, and I'm just going to make my rookie call right now in the fact that I think Justin Jefferson is getting 125 on this Falcons defense. I think that if the Falcons are so banged up in their secondary that the best guy they have, they're going to put on Thielen. The second best guy they have is going to have to deal with Jefferson. We don't know who's going to play in the secondary because they've had people in and out of injury this whole season in their secondary. I'm looking for a Vikings win. I'm rooting for you. Now we get to the hardest part where you have to kind of root for me, or do you? Because the Giants have to play the Washington football team, an NFC East rival, and the Washington football team, they are 1-4. The Giants are 0-5. Many expected the Giants to be at a better point in this season.
Yeah, the Giants have had a tough season. When you lose Barkley that early on, dropping to 0-5 is not what you want to see when you're a new head coach, Joe Judge, who I think has actually been coaching really well. The highlight of this team is the defense more than anything, which is unusual to say. I feel like about the Giants. Yeah, but the defense played well. I actually thought you guys were going to get the win last week before Dak went out. Hopefully he recovers and is back on the field sooner than expected. But that was a tough loss for you guys last week. Daniel Jones did not throw a touchdown again. Which is not what you want to see. I'm going to lean towards Washington, and it's mainly because the pressure that the offensive line of the Giants have allowed for Jones is just – it's not fun to be the quarterback right now if you're Daniel Jones some of the time. And I'm going to trust that the entire front four of that Washington defense, which is all first-round picks, including Chase Young, who's now back and healthy, to really go after Jones and to make him uncomfortable, make him throw the ball out quicker than he wants to, not going to hit his targets early on. They're just going to make it a very, very long day for him. I'm going to lean Washington here, though I don't think it'd be surprising if the Giants surprised and got a win. But I'm going to lean Washington and what that front four can do.
And you're right. The main factor of this win is that both of these teams are not really efficient on offense, but the fact that good defense is going to be the theme this weekend bodes well for these it bodes not well for these offenses in the sense that, they're both struggling offenses against two good defensive lines.
Yep.
The difference is the Giants' defensive line is all size to stop the run. However, on the Washington defensive line, they have guys who can stop the run and pass rush all day. as you mentioned, Chase Young, a rookie, but somebody that's an instant star, an instant impact player. He's going to give Daniel a really hard time this weekend, and I am going to have to go with the Washington football team. It's not something that I pride myself on choosing a division rival against my own team, but they are, as we mentioned, they are a top 5 week by week Pro Football Focus, ranked defensive line, and it's because even if they don't get sacks, they get pressure, and if they don't get pressure, they're definitely getting sacks. So
the best part right now, though, if you're a Giants fan, if you get the win, you're right in to possibly win the NFC East. It's just the Cowboys ahead by 1 game with a win, so
and
you
the
guys
Cowboys
are right
with
in the
Andy
thick of it.
Dalton.
Yep. So I mean, hopefully you guys get the win just to stay in second place in that division, but it's going to be tough. That's all the time that we have. Those are all the early afternoon games that we got for you. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Thank you, everyone, for listening. Hope you enjoy the games.
Yeah, check it out. YouTube.com, Just Saying Football, JustSayingFootball.com, Instagram, Just Saying, no G, WJS. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.